The day everything I thought I knew fell apart was the day I found the divorce papers on the kitchen table. My name is Mia Clark, a 32-year-old marketing manager, and until that moment, I believed I had a loving husband and a stable life. I had just returned from my mother's funeral, my heart heavy with sorrow. Jake, my husband of 6 years, was absent. Instead, the papers sat there, cold and detached, with a message that was impossible to ignore. He wanted to end our marriage. As I stared at them, a wave of numbness overtook me. Only weeks earlier, my mother, a woman of immense strength and resilience, had passed down to me our family estate, a sprawling mansion in the countryside, filled with childhood memories of laughter and warmth. Now that place, once a sanctuary, had become the epicenter of my shattered world. The sound of the door opening and closing interrupted my thoughts. Jake entered, his expression unreadable. "Mia, we need to talk," he said, his tone flat and devoid of feeling. I raised the papers in my hands. "Is this what you call a conversation?" Jake let out a sigh and ran his hand through his hair. "It's not just about this. I've been thinking about us, about everything. It's not working." "Not working?" My voice rose in disbelief and anger. "You wait until my mother dies, until I inherit her estate, to tell me our marriage isn't working?" "It's not about the estate," he said, avoiding my gaze. "Then what is it about, Jake?" I demanded, frustration building inside me. He hesitated, then uttered words that would forever haunt me. "I want to transfer the estate to my parents, the Carters." His words struck me like a physical blow. "Your parents?" I echoed, incredulous. "How could you even think that's acceptable?" Jake's face hardened. "They need it more than we do, and it's not like you're even attached to that place." "Not attached?" I let out a bitter laugh. "That house is my childhood home. My mother gave everything to it." He shrugged nonchalantly. "I've made up my mind. If you're not okay with it, then this," he gestured toward the divorce papers, "is the only option." I stared at him. The man I once loved, now a stranger. "Fine," I said, my voice calm, even as my heart stormed with emotion. "You want a divorce? You'll have it. But understand this, Jake Cole. I will not let you take my mother's legacy from me." For a moment, his smirk faltered, replaced by a flash of surprise. Maybe he hadn't expected me to stand firm, but I was my mother's daughter, strong and resolute. I took the papers from the table, my hands trembling just slightly, and walked out of the room. That night, I couldn't sleep. The mansion, my mother's pride and joy, was under threat, and I knew I had to fight back, not just for the estate, but for my dignity. I made a decision. The next morning, I would call the one person who could help me, my Uncle Martin, a seasoned attorney. As dawn broke, I felt a sense of resolve. Jake had underestimated me. I wasn't just going to roll over and let him take everything from me. No, I was going to fight, and I was going to win. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the room, but the turmoil in my heart overshadowed any comfort it might have offered. With determination, I dialed Uncle Martin's number, my fingers trembling slightly. He answered on the second ring. "Mia, dear, how are you holding up?" His voice was a balm, soothing yet tinged with concern. "Not well, Uncle," I admitted. "I need your help." As I explained the situation, the silence on the other end of the line grew heavy. When I finished, Uncle Martin's response was sharp and immediate. "Jake can't do that, Mia. It's illegal and morally reprehensible. We'll fight this." His words bolstered my resolve. "I want to protect what Mom left me," I said. "I won't let Jake and the Carters bully me into submission." "Good," Uncle Martin said firmly. "Let's meet at my office. We'll go over everything and plan our next steps." The drive to Uncle Martin's law firm was a blur, my mind racing with thoughts of legal battles and the possibility of losing my mother's legacy. I found Uncle Martin waiting for me, his expression grave. "Mia, this is going to be a tough fight," he began, as we sat down in his office. "Jake's move is not only unethical, but it's also illegal. He can't just transfer ownership without your consent." I nodded, feeling a mix of fear and anger. "What do we do?" "We challenge it," Uncle Martin said. "We'll file a case against him, prove that what he's doing is unlawful, but you need to be prepared, Mia. This will get messy." I steeled myself, thinking of my mother and the memories tied to the mansion. "I'm ready." Over the next few hours, Uncle Martin outlined the legal procedures. We discussed strategies, potential outcomes, and the evidence we needed. He was meticulous, leaving no stone unturned. As I listened, a sense of empowerment grew within me. I wasn't just fighting for property. I was fighting for justice, for my mother's memory. As I left his office, Uncle Martin's parting words echoed in my mind. "Remember, Mia, truth and justice are on your side. Hold on to that." The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal documents, meetings, and preparations. Uncle Martin was a fortress, guiding me through each step. Yet, despite his reassurances, the weight of the situation weighed heavily on me. The mansion wasn't just a building. It was a symbol of my mother's love and hard work. Losing it would be like losing her all over again. But amidst the chaos, a newfound strength had emerged within me. I was no longer the vulnerable woman Jake thought he could easily discard. I was Mia Clark, a fighter and survivor, ready to reclaim what was rightfully mine. The days leading up to my confrontation at the mansion were filled with a sense of tension and dread. I could feel the weight of something looming ahead, a storm gathering just out of sight. Uncle Martin had done his best to prepare me, but facing Jake and the Carters in person was something entirely different. As we approached the mansion, its towering presence felt both majestic and heavy with sorrow. Seeing it like this under such circumstances broke my heart. Uncle Martin placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You're not alone in this, Mia," he said, his words offering some comfort. Jake opened the door, his face showing a mix of surprise and irritation. "Mia, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice icy. "I think you know why we're here, Jake," I replied, trying to steady my breath. The Carters emerged from the living room, their expressions masked with feigned innocence. "Mia, dear, what's all this about?" Mrs. Carter asked, her voice laced with false concern. "It's about this house and your unlawful attempts to take it from me," I said, meeting their gazes head-on. Jake let out a derisive laugh. "It's for the best, Mia. You don't need this place." "I don't need it?" I echoed, my disbelief palpable. "This house is my mother's legacy. You have no right to it." Uncle Martin stepped forward, his lawyer instincts kicking in. "Jake, Mrs. Carter, Mr. Carter, you're all in violation of the law. Transferring property without consent is illegal, and if necessary, we will take this matter to court." The Carters exchanged anxious glances, while Jake's confident facade began to crack. "You can't win this, Mia," he said, though the uncertainty in his voice betrayed him. And then the bombshell dropped. Through his investigation, Uncle Martin had uncovered Jake's secret. He was in financial ruin. The Carters, too, were struggling, having drained their savings on needless luxuries. "You plan to use this estate to bail yourselves out," I realized aloud, the truth coming into focus. Jake fell silent, his eyes avoiding mine. The Carters looked down, their shame written all over their faces. That revelation only strengthened my resolve. "I won't let you destroy my mother's legacy," I declared. "This house is not a pawn in your financial games." Uncle Martin and I outlined the legal consequences they would face. The Carters paled, and Jake's posture slumped in defeat. "You'll have to vacate the premises immediately," Uncle Martin said firmly. "Any further attempts to claim this property will result in serious legal action." As we left the mansion, I felt a mix of triumph and sadness. The house that had once been filled with memories was now a battleground, but I was determined to protect it at any cost. In the car, Uncle Martin turned to me, his voice full of approval. You did well, Mia. Now let's prepare for the next phase. I nodded, glancing back at the mansion. The fight wasn't over, but I was ready. I had taken the first step in reclaiming my life and my mother's legacy. In the weeks following the confrontation, life fell into a new, uncertain rhythm. The legal proceedings had begun, and though the future was unclear, I found strength in knowing I was fighting for what was right. The mansion stood as a silent witness to the struggle, a symbol of both my mother's legacy and my newfound determination. It was during this time that Ben Hill, a colleague from work, unexpectedly became a source of support. Ben had always been friendly, but we had never formed a personal connection until one afternoon, when we both found ourselves staying late at the office. "Mia, how are you holding up with everything?" Ben Hill asked, his voice tinged with genuine concern. I hesitated, not used to opening up. "It's been challenging, but I'm managing." Ben Hill nodded understandingly. "If you ever need to talk or just take a break, I'm here. We all admire your strength at the office." His words were comforting, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a connection that went beyond professional courtesy. As days passed, Ben Hill's quiet support became a constant in my life. He was there with a kind word, a listening ear, and sometimes a much-needed laugh. One evening, after a particularly grueling day in court, Ben Hill stopped by my desk. "Mia, would you like to grab dinner? My treat. You look like you could use a good meal and a break." Surprised, I accepted. Dinner with Ben Hill was easy and unassuming. We talked about everything except the legal battle in the mansion. It was a breath of fresh air. As he walked me to my car, Ben Hill hesitated. "Mia, I know this might not be the best timing, but I need to say this. I've always admired you, not just for your work, but for who you are. And these past weeks, seeing your strength, I've realized my feelings go beyond mere admiration." His confession caught me off guard. I had grown comfortable in his presence, but I hadn't considered the possibility of more. "Ben Hill, I don't know what to say." He smiled gently. "You don't have to say anything now. I just wanted you to know how I feel. Take all the time you need." Driving home, Ben Hill's words echoed in my mind. Was I ready to open my heart again? The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. Jake's betrayal had left a scar, but here was Ben Hill offering something genuine and sincere. Over the next few days, I found myself thinking of Ben Hill more and more. There was a warmth in him that drew me in. Perhaps it was time to let go of the past and give myself a chance at happiness. Finally, I made my decision. I invited Ben Hill for coffee, my heart pounding as I spoke. "Ben Hill, about what you said the other night. I've been thinking, and I'd like to explore this with you." His smile was all the answer I needed. As we sipped our coffee, talking and laughing, I felt a sense of hope. A new chapter in my life was beginning, and for the first time in a long while, I looked forward to the future. The legal battle over the mansion came to an end sooner than I had expected. With Uncle Martin's expertise and the overwhelming evidence of Jake and the Carters' deceit, the case was decisively in our favor. The judge's ruling was clear and final. The mansion was rightfully mine, and any claims made by Jake or his family were deemed invalid. It was a victory, not only in the courtroom, but on a deeper moral level. It felt like a validation of everything my mother and I had fought for. Yet, the end of the legal proceedings didn't bring the peace I had anticipated. Jake, now desperate and backed into a corner by his mounting financial troubles, reached out to me. His calls and messages, laden with pleas and excuses, became increasingly difficult to ignore. The man I had once loved was now a stranger to me, consumed by his own greed and poor decisions. One evening, as Ben Hill and I strolled through the park, my phone buzzed with another message from Jake. Sighing, I made the decision to confront my past one last time. "Jake, this needs to stop," I said, answering the call with a sense of finality. "Mia, please," his voice cracked with desperation. "I'm begging you, help me. I've got nothing left." The woman I used to be might have hesitated, but I had grown stronger, more resolute. Jake, what happened is the consequence of your choices. I can't help you. You need to take responsibility for what you've done. But we were married, Mia. Doesn't that mean something? He pleaded, his voice shaking. It did once, I replied, my voice steady. But you made your decisions, Jake. I've moved on, and I think it's time you do the same. With that, I hung up, feeling the weight of the past finally lifting from my shoulders. Ben, ever the supportive presence in my life, squeezed my hand gently. Are you okay? He asked, his voice filled with concern. I nodded, a sense of relief washing over me. Yes, I'm fine. It's finally over. As we continued our walk, the world seemed a little brighter, the future full of possibility. Ben and I grew closer in the weeks that followed, our bond deepening into something real and beautiful. He became not just my partner, but my rock-loving, understanding, and unwavering. Eventually, we decided to get engaged. It was a simple moment, but it symbolized a fresh start, a promise of happiness and new beginnings. Uncle Martin, ever proud, was overjoyed. You deserve all the happiness in the world, Mia, he said, his eyes glistening with emotion. The mansion, once a place of conflict, was transformed back into a home, a place of warmth, love, and laughter. Ben and I made the decision to adopt a child, adding another layer of joy and hope to our lives. Our family wasn't traditional, but it was ours, built on a foundation of love, respect, and understanding. As I watched our child play in the garden, the same garden where I had once played as a child, I felt a deep sense of peace. Life had come full circle. The struggles and heartaches had led me to this moment of contentment. I realized that the echoes of betrayal and deceit were now behind me, replaced by the sounds of redemption, love, and new beginnings. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over our home, I knew that we were ready for whatever the future would bring together.